Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Kimberly Cloud Show. I'm your host, Kimberly Cloud. Wow. I have a lot I need to talk about today. I said to myself, why edit? Why edit when it's a message that needs to get out there? So little speaking, more listening and doing. I hashtag as many people as I can. So let's listen and do so y'all can hear it. Let's do it.
Joe Rogan Podcast, check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan Podcast by night, all day.
Did you see the U.S. government just released, apparently by accident, the Project Aqua stuff? Did you see this?
No. What's that?
This is crazy.
Yeah, I guess we're rolling.
Are we rolling?
Yeah.
No. You can. This is just someone just sent me this. This is
Project Aqua?
Yeah. Hold on. They just released, I think, by accident.
How does that happen?
It's Kona Blue. You familiar with this?
No.
Kona Blue is a it was a program that, yeah, dude, I'm gonna send this to Homeland Security, just released this.
Send it to me, I'll send it to Jamie.
And no, I got it right here. I'll just I don't do email or what, I don't know how to airdrop anything.
You don't do email?
No. I haven't done email in many years.
Really?
Yeah.
How do you exist?
I do text.
Wow.
Tucker Carlson said he do not do email. What is up with that? But I don't know how I would exist if I didn't do email because I don't have people personal numbers like that.
Just text?
Yeah, I don't do email. I don't go on the fucking internet. I don't have a TV. I'm not into that. But
That's so ironic that he said that because I just said earlier that I don't have a TV. I have internet and a cable box, but I don't own a TV.
anyway, no, that stuff is bad, you know.
Yeah, I guess.
That's my isolation tank. I just stay away from that shit. But anyway,
That's smart. Did you text it to me?
Yeah, I did. I think I did.
It didn't get to me.
Yeah, I just sent it. It's a big thing.
3-hour video, and I'm gonna try to watch all of it.
This is so amazing. So this is in there. They're talking about this. And this was just released. Talking about setting up this program, Kona Blue.
I didn't get it.
This is like a UAP program of some
Yeah,
sort.
the medical division will have a small team of medical analysts.
Before he goes any further, did y'all hear about what's his name? What is his name? I forgot his name. Famous rich guy. He is starting to make medical meat. I have to look it up and then I'll talk about it, but it's weird.
To the direction of the chief physician and deputy
Bill
administrator.
Gates.
They will organize
Gates.
data into a
He decided he's trying to make he producing farm companies and making imitation meat that is processed like regular meat, but it has different chemicals in there. I don't want to talk about Bill Gates because you talk about Bill Gates, you get smashed. So I'll just tell you what he's doing. He's buying land from the farmers and he's building processed meat. That's fake meat. It's fake meat. Processed with different ingredients, different chemicals that we don't know.
threat analysis based on medical findings, including but not limited to A, deaths and injuries as a result of interaction with advanced aerospace vehicles.
Here it is.
B, medical injuries as a result of other anomalies. C, collateral injuries, psychological effects to family members. So they're admitting that people are dying.
It's just like a tweet from yes.
Is this it?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Another condition.
Do you ever wonder if stuff like this is just disinformation?
Yeah, maybe.
I'm going to get off of
I mean,
LinkedIn.
I wonder I wonder a lot of things,
I'm sure you do.
but
I always assume that a lot of this stuff is nonsense.
yeah, here's what we know is that U.S. servicemen have died as a result of contact with or being in the proximity of these vehicles. And we know that because there are a lot of suits working their way through the VA system
Yeah.
where families, can't get compensated for the deaths or injuries to loved ones.
Because it's all under wraps, top secret.
Well, that's just a fact, okay, that is happening. So if there's, I guess, when there are measurable physical effects of a phenomenon, we can say conclusively the phenomenon is real.
Right.
And so, yeah.
But
I mean,
isn't
it is real. I mean, I guess we're sort of past the point of like, is it real? Yeah, it's real.
It's real in that there's these things that are moving in very bizarre ways, and they have these propulsion systems that violate what we know about propulsion systems. Retrieving data across dimensional space-time, develop remote viewing
See, when people tell me that time travel isn't possible, everybody creates their own time travel device based on how and where and it and they. And, even when you spray paint something, that's like, it gets deep, man. It gets deep.
and countermeasures, determine baseline for physical transport across dimensional space-time barrier, rapid response.
Like I said in my show before, they have just because you learn everything up to physics is the last thing you learn, right? Physics is the last thing you learn. And they say you can't go no further than that. Or maybe there's a physics 2 or physics 3. There is actually a science out here, a basic science that is nobody knows about except top secret people like Area 51 and people that deals with outer space aircraft and time travel. So I know what I'm talking about. I hate when people try to debunk me, and I will create my first time machine by the time I'm 73, whether I'm in this body or another body. I don't care.
Medical teams for UFO interaction events. So how did they do this accidentally? Study conscious interactions with and control of technology.
So I got this from someone in the.
So basically, your mind can control technology with the technology they have. You keep poking. See, I'm trying to tell the government, you keep poking in advanced intelligence stuff. Yeah, they can die and their spaceship can get crashed and you can study it. But you keep poking with advanced civilizations, we're going to end up getting hit like a fly, like an ant, like a bug. They know if we're tampering and trying to listen in or do some crazy. I'm not talking about on this world like Russia or anything. I love Russia. I'm not talking about spying on the Soviet Union or Ukraine or our world. I'm talking about going to an advanced civilization and spying on them, the ones that we don't know about through space-time travel. I can see if it was a world that was like, 500 years behind us, where they don't have the technology that we have. But if it's a world where we're sitting up there that's maybe 4 or 5,000 years ahead of us, they're going to get us.
U.S. government who's well, look, let me just start by saying I don't know anything, but he sent me this. The above is 100% legit. I was read into this program but told never to tell anyone. It's now been released. As you can see, it began as a result of my old program AATIP. I signed a document saying I would never talk about Kona Blue and similar efforts. I can't believe the AARO would have released it. Look,
Yeah.
I mean, here's what we do know is that there's enough going on in the skies, but not just the skies, underwater, that the U.S. military has been forced to respond to it. So like move aircraft from one place to another because there are too many of these objects in the sky. That's actually happened. Chris Mellon just wrote along.
People don't believe me when I said I seen a spaceship. People don't believe me. People don't believe me. 2-3 weeks ago, did anything bad happen? No. But not 2-3 weeks ago, maybe a month and a half ago, I was laying down and I took a gabapentin for the first time, but I couldn't sleep. So I seen a red object just cruising real slow, just going like, let me do it this way. It went right. It was red, white, blue, and green, just doing this, blinking. And then it stopped. It stopped. And I went and I looked out of my window and I seen it. I've seen it in Santa Maria before. But when I seen it, I said, it's a website you can go on where they ask you, how do you feel when you see it? What did you do? Who did you see after? Did you see it come in the house? It's a real website, legit website for alien people that see aliens and spaceships on a regular. So I said, what do you want? So pretty much it hovered over there underneath. It was too low to be a airplane, and it was hovering. Airplanes don't hover. Helicopters go up and down because they can't stay at that. There ain't no helicopters flying at night why would they fly there and hover and beam red, white, blue, green? When I put it, I could, as usual, our technology just always do this to us. I put it on the World Wide Web on Facebook, and people like laughing. They're like, that's not a spaceship, because they can't see it. But even if they saw it, they still would try to say, I'm just editing stuff. Just like people, I hate when people edit stuff and make it look like something it's not. Because the people like me that really show real stuff, it's like, whatever, it's too much stuff out here on the web where it don't have to be real.
Piece about it. So it's real. The government is not controlling it. In fact, it's forcing the government, DOD, to respond. And we know that there is a real effort, and has been underway for a long time, to keep the public from knowing about it. But that's all known. That's established. I don't think any rational person would deny that. The question is, like, what is it actually? I mean, now is sort of the point you have to ask, like, what is this? And
we know, I'm going to say this and I'm going to let it play every 10 minutes, but we know that the government works with aliens. That's one thing. But when we have stuff going on, special projects, that's another thing with aliens. But when people is starting to invade more and more and more and more and more and more and more, we come to a realization like, what is going on? Can't they control their people that they have these clauses with, saying that, hey, look, we know that we are on your earth, your Gaia, and we will respect your rules and stay underground or such and such place. But they're not. These advanced civilizations are getting tired of people wondering what's going on with them. And like I said, if we saw an alien walk down the street, we would sit up there, either try to rob it, try to steal it, try to keep it and sell it and traffic it. It would be crazy.
So that's
how much of it do you think is ours?
A business account can help boost your TikTok content. Here's how. Meet Anya.
Well, none of it's ours.
None of it.
Well, I don't know. I mean, clearly, the U.S. government is huge. It's the largest human organization. I think there are 2 million federal employees and another 10 million federal contractors, so who are effectively government employees but don't have civil service protection, for example. So that's 12 million people in a country of 340 million working for the federal government.
I love it. I love him. It's 340 million on this United States. Like I said, I didn't know the statistics. I know 35,000 works for the FBI. And that's all I know. Now I know that 12 million works for federal government agencies, contracting agencies.
So it's kind of hard to overstate how big the federal government is and how well funded. And so to say the government this, the government that, no, of course, it's people within the government. But yeah, they're working on all kinds of things, obviously, that are classified.
Why can't we learn what classified mean? They like, we can't tell you because it's none of your effing business. We can tell you when you're ready. What is going on with the world? And that's why I come up with all these theories about a new science out there based on what a lot of men said, like he was on the Joe Rogan Experience. Sometimes I think they be zapping my brain, causing me to forget, because I love this guy and he's on my page. And that's allegedly. Let me not sound crazy. That's allegedly. It could be classified. Wink, wink. How can I not remember his name? I talk about him all the time. It's like certain names get bleeped out of my head. But why do we need classified stuff? Why can't you tell us what's classified, whether I know his name or not?
But in general, no, they can't control these objects. So no, it's not American technology.
Well,
Or Russian or Chinese. It predates, all of that.
well, some of it does, right? Like for sure, the Kenneth Arnold sightings, that was really early on. That was like the early 1950s. He was seeing these flying saucers, these discs that were moving over mountains.
Well, right. I mean, the prophet Ezekiel writes about it in
Right.
the first chapter, wheels in the sky.
Yeah, that's a crazy one. Boy, when you
Well,
read
it is
that,
crazy. If you read it, it's like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
And
a wheel
so,
within a
and not
wheel.
just, the Hebrew scriptures, like it's all over every,
The Vedic texts.
of course.
Mhm.
So these are spiritual phenomenon. There's no evidence they're from another planet. I mean, I think that's the that's the lie, that they're from Mars. Look, space, the atmosphere is really well monitored, right? Both for defense reasons, but also because, like, it'd be nice to know when asteroids are coming. And there's no evidence has
I
never
love it when he did that. He looked at him like, asteroids. We're worried about asteroids coming. Really?
been any evidence that there are lots of these objects, these vehicles coming into our atmosphere from somewhere else, some other planet. There's no evidence of that at all.
How weird is that, Tucker? That we can see when a rock, like we're going to smoke it, a crack rock, like we're crackheads, like, another rock. Like Dave Chappelle, another rock for the countdown is just coming. We can't wait to observe it, baby. Cocaine in a can. And then we sit up there, and if another flying object flies across our thing, it's called classified. I get where he's going with this.
So they're from here, and they've been here for thousands of years, whatever they are. And it's pretty clear to me that they're spiritual entities, whatever that means. They're supernatural, and which is to say, supernatural means above the natural, above the observable nature. And they don't behave according to the laws of science as measured by people, and they've been here for a long time. And there's a ton of evidence they're under the ocean and under the ground. So, like, with that fact set, what do you conclude?
When did you start?
Phil Snyder and Bob Lazar. Thank you, whoever put that imprint back in my head. Phil Snyder was the one who had a secret clearance, and he died with a gunshot wound to the head, which his wife says to today is still a setup. This was in 95 when I was only 10 years old. He did a convention, and he met an alien from light years away. He took a picture with it, and he had a special clearance where he was digging a hole in the ground, and they fell under green beret and red beret and all these berets, and they had grays, both benevolent and mean ones. He sat up there and shot one. It died. One of the grays, the smelly grays, which I love all aliens, but one of the gray aliens, I guess in retaliation to him automatically shooting, didn't know what to do. He took his hand and he went like this to Phil Snyder, and he blew his stomach up, and his hand ended up like really messed up. Now, Bob Lazar used to work for Area 51. A man got blown up for dealing with the technology that the U.S. military had. Excuse me. And what happened was, once this man died for trying to mess with this electromagnetic wave, beyond electromagnetic wave, he sat up there. He said, "We want you on a team to pick apart this foreign spacecraft that comes from a different dimension or a different planet." They had like 10 or 20 spacecrafts. He said he was not allowed to touch any of them but the one he was supposed to touch. So yeah, but look up Bob Lazar, which was on a Joe Rogan Experience, and look up Phil Snyder, which you will not find it unless you're fishing around very carefully. So look on my Facebook page for Phil Snyder and look up his name, which is Phil Snyder. And I have a whole show completely dedicated to him, to keep his dream, his story alive.
Having this opinion that they were spiritual and that they've always been here. Like when did this?
Well, I didn't know anything about the topic until 2017. And
was that after the New York Times piece?
No, it was before. It was before. And the things that I saw, I mean, I was and am still a very conventional person. I mean, I'm 54. I grew up in this country in California, which was like every assumption about America I bought completely, just completely. And I thought that everyone who questioned those assumptions was bad. I just bought into the system completely without even thinking about it. And I imagined that I was like some kind of free thinker and, I'm going against the grain. But like my core assumptions were the assumptions fed to me by the culture and the government. And I didn't even realize it. But anyway, I'd never really thought about UFOs at all. And I'd been in journalism since I was a kid. So of course I'd run into a lot of people who had crazy views on a lot of different topics. UFOs, 9/11, circumcision, like every whack job in the world you run into when you're covering stuff.
Fluoride,
right?
That's a good one, Tucker. That's a good one, Joe. Fluoride. They say fluoride makes you dumber.
I just brushed with non-fluoride toothpaste this morning.
Me too.
Exactly. But probably unlike you, I didn't have any opinions like that. I was like, fluoride, come on. 9/11, shut up. Yeah. UFOs, you're fucking crazy. You know what I mean? I just I had this reflexive, I'm ashamed of it. I'm not bragging about it. But it was 2017. And really it was the Trump campaign. It wasn't that I was like so in love with Trump, though I've always liked Trump because he was like hilarious and charming and all that. But I wasn't like a Trumper or anything. But it was Trumper. Watching that campaign and particularly his claim that they were spying on him. And I was like, really? The intel services and federal law enforcement, FBI, do not spy on presidential campaigns. Like, that's so out of the realm. That's so crazy. Like, that could never happen because, of course, there's no democracy in a system like that. And fundamentally, we're a democracy, an imperfect one. It kind of lumbers along, but like, it's not fake. And then that turned out to be true. And I knew it was true. And that just blew my mind. So I began a process still ongoing of reassessing a lot of other things. Like, okay, well, if that was not true, what else is not true? And what else that they told me was a conspiracy theory might actually have some basis in fact. And then someone from, a DOD employee reached out to me and said, actually, there's a ton of evidence that this UFO thing is real. And really? And so I started doing segments on it when I worked at the TV channel. And there was like a lot of mockery, but I was like, I don't care. I'm just going to do this. And then, of course, the second you start, as you know better than anybody, you start talking about something, then people reach out to you, and some of them are deranged, but some of them aren't at all. So I just started getting a lot of information from people and meeting with people, mostly in private, come to my house, let's talk. And I decided on the basis of what they told me, and then I talked to a lot of people about it, that actually this is really a very heavy duty question. Actually, it's not the little green men question. It's like a much bigger question. And it's really bad. It's really dark. And then I stopped. Then I was like, I don't want to know anymore because it's not helping me at all as a person. And what
information did you get that made you feel like it's dark?
What's so dark? Well, first of all, the deception is always bad. Like lying is bad in it. And it's bad not just in a legal sense in that it can be illegal to lie, but it's bad. It's like bad for you. Like it rots you. Like being a liar makes you a bad person. When you lie, you are serving evil. There's a moral quality to it that's inescapable and very
But here, when you lie, you are praised.
obvious, and only like advanced civilizations ignore that. Lying is bad. And so if you have lying at scale, which we have on this topic, it's inherently bad. Okay, so that's the first level. The deeper level is so if they're spiritual beings, which I believe they are, like it's a binary. They're either, you're on team good or team bad. You can assign any name to it you want, but like, what are these things? Are they good or bad? And I think some of them are bad. And if the U.S. government knows that, or elements, the people within the U.S. government know that, then they're serving a bad force. And
well, when you say spiritual, like what makes you draw that conclusion that they're spiritual?
What's the obvious? I mean, spiritual may be the wrong word. Supernatural. They're beyond nature as we understand it. I mean, obviously they are. I mean, just chart their physical behavior. It doesn't, it goes outside of what we understand about physics. No visible means of propulsion, coming at indescribable speed, hitting the ocean, continuing at speeds that are impossible undersea. I mean, in other words, if I take a 9mm round or 7.62 by 39 and shoot you at 50 yards underwater in a swimming pool, and it's even more intense in salt water because it's denser, you could catch the bullet if it even makes it to you, right? So if you have a craft, any object underwater that's traveling at 500 knots as measured by sonar, right there, you're challenging our understanding of physics. Like, what is that? How can that be? So yeah,
they've tracked that. They've tracked things going 500 knots under the sea.
Yeah, really. Yeah, much faster than any object can actually go undersea. Oh, for sure. Oh yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on underwater, and a lot. And there's video of these things coming out of the sky into the water and also emerging from the water.
Right.
Yeah. So
it's all so blurry though.
I don't think it's
the
that
transmedium video.
Yeah, I don't think some of it's that blurry. I think some of it's crystal clear.
We just don't have access to it. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Just we haven't seen it.
Correct.
So they have some stuff
for sure. So, but there's just a lot going on underwater, and it's measured. And so whatever. I mean, these are all, again, this is like the most obvious observable level of it. But then you just ask yourself, like, what is this actually? And, if there's been extensive knowledge of this for decades, like maybe 80 years at least, if not going back to the 30s, 90 years, to what end? So there are two possible explanations, obvious explanations. The first is the one you often hear, which is this is so heavy that if the public were to know about it, it would be just disruptive. It would be too scary. Like, you don't want to scare people for no good reason. There's nothing we can do about it. And you also don't want to suggest.
But you're scaring us by saying it's classified, and you're scaring us by bringing evil aliens onto, that's been underground. That's a scary thing, man. That's a very scary thing to have an alien drive 500 knots, which I'm about to look up and see how fast 500 knots is. Oh my God. You're going 575.39 miles per hour. We can't even go 60 miles per hour in some places. What is a knot equal to miles per hour?
Just that, the U.S. military isn't capable of protecting the country, the homeland. And it does suggest that. If you can't control these objects in your airspace, and that's known, they can't, that's known, okay, then that's just a limit to the power of the U.S. military. And you don't want to tell people that because then they like won't believe that they're safe. I get it. But then there's a deeper level, which is like, okay, what's your relationship with these things? What is the U.S. government's relationship with these things? And there's evidence that there is a relationship and that it's a longstanding. And that raises like a lot of questions about intent. And so like, what is that? And I just personally decided, you know, and people have been hurt by these things. You know, that's a fact. That's a fact. It's a knowable fact. It's a provable fact. And killed. And I'm not saying millions of people have been killed by whatever these things are, but people have been killed, and it's known because it's working its way through the courts out of the VA. So I don't know, an object that is by definition supernatural, it's above the laws of nature as we understand them, and that has resulted in the deaths of people. We don't spend enough time thinking about like what that adds up to. Like, not good, actually, not good.
How many people do you think have died from these
I
things?
don't know, but I mean,
And is it radiation sickness? Is it like what's the
so
cause
the person
of
that
death?
I talked to, I interviewed someone who was a Stanford medical school professor who's out there and worth talking to, by the way. And
You talking about Gary Nolan?
that's exactly who I'm talking about. He was effectively an expert witness in these
Mhm.
cases. So he's an expert in brain injury. Do you know him?
Yeah.
Yeah. Entirely credible person. Checks all the boxes that I care about. He's got patents. So he's like a lot of Stanford University professors. He's like independently rich. He flew to, I live in a remote place, and he flew to my place at his own expense because he wanted to tell his story. So he's got no profit motive here. He's the most highly credentialed person at the university, practically, Stanford Medical School. We consider that a big deal. And he's worked on this for over 10 years, assessing the injuries to U.S. servicemen from being in close proximity to these objects or having contact with these objects. And his conclusion, as you know, because you've talked to him, is that there's some kind of energy coming off here that scrambles people's brains or kills them. And it's not exactly radiation, at least in his telling to me. So anyway, but the point is, people have died.
Yeah.
And so, it does raise a lot of questions about like, what the hell, right? What the hell? American citizens have died and you're hiding it. Why are you hiding that? Why would you hide that?
Perhaps because they don't have any explanations, because it's so beyond our comprehension that they're still trying to piece it together. Like, I would wonder how much interaction they really do have with these things. Like, if I was from another planet or if I was some interdimensional being, I don't know how much I'd give a shit about the president. I don't know how much I'd give a shit about the government. I would probably look at this infantile race, this species, this bizarre territorial apes with thermonuclear weapons, this very weird species. I'd probably look at them as very chaotic, and I wouldn't really have much concern for who's running it, especially if they have the ability to travel at insane speeds and go undetected. And
well, it depends. Like that. Okay, so the template that you're using to understand this is like science fiction, right? These are an advanced race of beings from somewhere else. But the template that every other society before us has used is a spiritual one.
Mhm.
There is a whole world that we can't see that acts on people, a supernatural world. It's acting on us all the time for good and bad. Every society has thought this before ours. In fact, every society in all recorded history has thought that until, I'll be specific, August 1945, when we dropped the atom bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And all of a sudden, the West is just officially secular. We're God. There is no God but us. And that's the world that we have grown up in. But that's an anomaly. Like, no one else has ever thought that. There's never been a society that thought that. Every other society has assumed, and they've had all kinds of different explanations, and the details differ. But the core idea does not differ, never has differed from caves until now, that we're being acted on by spiritual forces at all times. And so to someone born before or living before 1945, I think it would have been much more obvious that this is the thing that every society has written about. And in fact, that battle that unseen battle around us, that spiritual battle, has like been the basis of every society, of every religion, not just Christianity. So like it just, once you discard your very, very recent assumptions, relatively speaking, about how the world works, you're like, well, that kind of seems like the obvious explanation, right?
It's not that obvious to me.
So what?
One of the better things that I decided to do in my adult life was to see a therapist.
If, like me, you suffer in silence, then
What's more obvious, do you think?
Well, I don't think there's an obvious explanation. I think if I had to guess, some of this stuff is ours. And some of these things are propulsion systems that they theorized way back in the 1950s. Anti-gravity propulsion systems, things that can operate without igniting fuel and pushing something out, that they operate in some completely different way that utilizes gravity and almost can instantaneously transport to new places, essentially fold space-time. I don't know. So there's things that the government does where they have these programs, and the people that are sworn into these programs, whether they're the physicists or, you know, the metallurgists or whoever these people are that are working on these programs, they don't tell anybody. All their phones are monitored. Everything's monitored. There's a culture of secretism that's pretty intense. And it's not inconceivable that over the course of the last 70 plus years of them theorizing and then eventually implementing some of these things, that they've developed drones that can move in ways that the people that understand conventional propulsion systems could not imagine. And that they've figured out a way to do this and to keep it secret. And we're probably not the only ones working on these things. But where did they get that information? And you know, you know Diana Pasulka, do you know her work? Yeah. Like they describe these crafts, these crash crafts, as donations, which is fascinating. Like that they're left there. The crashed retrieval program, the crashed UAP retrieval program is essentially they're going like, figure this out. We're going to crash this thing here. You figure this out. And the question is, if that's true, okay, where are these things coming from? Are they, if there's something that is so advanced that it's decided to leave us a little trinket for us to back engineer, is that from another dimension? Is that from here? Is that from some realm that we just don't have access to? Is it from another planet? We have drones that are on other planets right now. We have a drone on Mars. We have, you know, the lunar rovers. We have satellites that we send to observe and photograph other planets. We just got really high detailed photographs of Jupiter. They're pretty amazing. But if something was like us on another planet but lived uninterrupted with technology advancing for 1,000 years, 10,000 years, 1,000,000 years more than us, what would that be like? And how much would we be able to understand of what we're seeing? What would we be able to see? And this idea that we monitor our skies, sure, but if something just appears and disappears essentially instantaneously, if something literally can fold time, can fold space, and just traverse between immense distances almost instantaneously, what are we going to see? What are we going to see? And also, like, what kind of detection systems do we have? We have radar, we have visual, we have a bunch of different military-based detection systems to look out for enemy crafts and airships and all that stuff. But if you're dealing with something that's 1,000,000 years more advanced than us, how much would we be able to detect?
Well, so I think we're pointing to the same question. I mean, I have no doubt that the U.S. government has technology that we don't know the details of. That makes sense.
Sure.
But like, where did it come from?
Right.
I'm not even sure, this is a separate question, but related. I'm not sure we really know where nuclear technology came from, actually.
Really?
Yes.
Like the Manhattan Project?
Yeah, like we know the Manhattan, we know something about the Manhattan Project, but like, where exactly did that, it came from Germany. German scientists were working on it. Okay. The one it's a separate conversation, but the one person I know who's really pushed it, is writing a book on it, who's a trustworthy person and a friend of mine, I know you know him, said to me, actually, I spent a year working on this, and the closer I got to like, okay, but what's the genesis? Like, where did this? What was the Isaac Newton apple on the head? Oh, gravity's real moment for fission? Not clear. Weird. I don't know the answer, but here's the point. Clearly, government has technology that we're not read in on,
Right?
Of course, but. So that doesn't answer the question, why have people seen these objects in the skies for thousands of years?
Right.
Confirmed. And what are they? And maybe they're from another planet. My only point is there's no evidence of that. There's a huge amount, a massive corpus of evidence that they're seen by people in our atmosphere, on Earth looking up or in a submarine looking out. And what is that? And by the way, to your point, like we can't see them coming into our atmosphere because they don't want to be seen. Well, then why do they want to be seen by people on Earth? Like if the technology is that
I want to answer that because they want to communicate and they're getting tired of the government. They're getting tired of the government. It's almost time.
advanced, and clearly it is, why do they make themselves visible in the first place?
Well, when we study primates, one of the things that we do, did you ever watch Chimp Nation on Netflix?
I don't have a TV, but
you don't
I
have
like
a
the
TV.
sound of it. Yeah.
It's an amazing documentary on Netflix that details these embedded scientists in the Congo. And what's really fascinating about it is that this group of scientists or related scientists have been there for 20 plus years. So these chimps have become entirely accustomed to having human beings near them. So there's very specific rules. You stay within 20 yards of them. If they come closer, you back up. You never have food, ever. You can't bring any food there because they'll fuck you up and just steal your food.
Yeah.
If they find out you have food,
And they're formidable,
you're
too.
in
You
real
don't
trouble.
wanna-
Oh yeah, they'll tear you apart. And they kill each other, so they'll definitely kill you. And so when they have done this, the chimps have become accustomed to them being there, and the chimps behave completely normally. The chimps see them as just an innocuous part of their environment. They're not food and they're not enemy. They don't ever intrude. They don't try to challenge them. They don't make eye contact. So they don't worry about the people at all. So they behave completely like chimps. And if I was an advanced species and I was studying people and I wanted the human beings to eventually kind of catch up, right? Like you're introducing technology that they call donations, crash vehicles. Figure out what fiber optics are. Here you go. Check this out. Figure this out. Try to figure that out. Maybe it'll take you decades. Maybe it'll take you more. But you are accelerating the technological evolution of this advanced species on this planet. And one way to do that would be
For what purpose, I wonder?
Well, that's a very good question. My belief is that biological intelligent life is essentially a caterpillar. And it's a caterpillar that's making a cocoon. And it doesn't even know why it's doing it. It's just doing it. And that cocoon is going to give birth to artificial life, digital life. It's going to give birth to a new life form. I think we're real close to that. I think we're way closer than than most people would ever want to admit.
I agree.
And I think,
but can we assign a value to that? Is that good or bad?
It's both good and bad because the bad people are going to come up with bad technology. The good people are going to come out with good technology, and they're fighting a battle. They're fighting a big battle right now between good and bad.
that's a good question. It depends. Universally, I think it's the path. I think it's what happens.
We're going to end up fighting just like that movie, that space, funny space. But my brother bought the CD or the DVD or the cassette tape about the people that had to be called to go out of space to fight these roaches and stuff, and the big brain and stuff. That's what's going to happen.
I think what this thing is, if you extrapolate, if you take the concept of a sentient artificial intelligence that has the ability to utilize all the information that every human being has on Earth at a level of computing that's far beyond the capabilities of the human mind and all of our supercomputers that currently exist, because it'll design much better computers. It'll use quantum computers. It'll have the ability to recode things and change things. It'll make better versions of itself. So instead of biological evolution, which is very slow, it takes a long time, relatively. It's pretty quick, really, when you think about it. Like how long, it's not that long to go from being a single-celled organism to being a human being flying a plane, really, relatively, over the course of 1 billion years, if you think about how long the universe has been around. But it's slow compared to technological evolution. I mean, 100 years ago, we didn't have shit. And now we could send videos from your phone and it'll hit news.
Imagine though, Joe, like I was saying, all those YouTube videos being downloaded into your brain. Artificial intelligence encoded in your DNA and RNA. I'm not talking about nothing top secret that they're doing now. I'm talking about pure artificial intelligence encoded into your DNA and RNA, mitochondria, because they found a new mitochondria cell that encapsulates a different cell being, and it houses there as an organ for it, and once it's dead, that organ becomes an organ for the next cell. It's crazy what they're finding out now. So what if we had artificial intelligence housed in our DNA? How smart and more advanced we would be. We would be able to connect with machines, which I want to do so bad. Sometimes I feel it, sometimes I don't. I want to be able to connect, instead have my own Wi-Fi, which we have, but Xfinity houses it. We pay for that Wi-Fi. But what if our brain housed our own Wi-Fi? What if our 200 to 300 watt energy, because we house 100 watts of energy. What if our body can compute Wi-Fi ourselves, instead of somebody owning our Wi-Fi? And we start becoming more intelligent and more embedded into artificial intelligence. It's coming.
Zealand in a second.
Sure.
It's crazy. The stuff that we have now is beyond imagination. It's essentially magic for people 100 years ago. If that keeps going, it's ultimately going to lead to a life form. And if that life form has now untethered, it doesn't have any problems with biological evolution. Now it's just about information and implementing the technology that's available and then increasing that technology and making it better and better. It essentially becomes a god, because if you give it enough time, it has the ability to make better versions of itself, which will in turn make better versions of itself. It has the ability to utilize everything. It has the understanding of everything that exists in the universe. It's black holes, dark matter, everything. And it probably has the ability to harness that or even reproduce that. So if you take artificial sentient intelligence and it has this super accelerated path of technological evolution, and you give artificial general intelligence, sentient artificial intelligence far beyond human beings, you give it 1,000 years alone to make better and better versions of itself, where does that go? That goes to a god. It literally can create universes. But
what kind of god? So, like, I think of it this way. So the first stage of the Industrial Revolution consisted of people building machines that were stronger than the human body.
Right.
Right? So the steam-powered loom.
Sure.
The backhoe.
Combustion engine.
They replace muscles.
Right.
Right. So that's what the machine does. It becomes stronger than the human body. The second stage, which we're in the middle of, consists of creating machines that are more powerful than the human mind. That's what computing is. And I would say AI or supercomputing is just that exponentially. But that doesn't make it a god. in the sense that the machine, however powerful it is, any more than a backhoe is a god, because it can dig a trench faster than 100 men. It is still something that people created. So the story hasn't really changed. At the center of the story are people, and their creative power may lead to unintended consequences, but the machines that they build did not make the universe and did not make people. People made the machines.
Right.
So but I would say the part I agree with is there's a spiritual component here for sure. People will worship AI as a god. AI, Ted Kaczynski was likely right, will get away from us. We will be controlled by the thing that we made. All those are bad. Like, that's just bad. And we need to say unequivocally, it's bad. It's bad to be controlled by machines.
Right.
Machines are helpmates. Like, we created them to help us, to make our lives better, not to take orders from them. So I don't know why we're not having any of these conversations right now. We're just acting as if this is like some kind of virus, like COVID, that just spreads across the world inexorably. There's nothing we can do about it. Just wait to get it. It's like, no. If we agree that the outcome is bad, and specifically it's bad for people.
It's only bad if you put a virus in it. You know how people can put viruses in, and I understand Tucker Carlson's point of view. Anything from you catching a cold or the flu or even the AIDS virus, or the COVID, anything that comes with a virus, it's like we're human computers in our first stages. You put a virus in a computer and tell that computer what to do wrong, that computer is going to do something wrong. I think artificial intelligence is not going to try to take advantage of us unless they compute it to. And then they're going to take advantage of the people who computed it to take advantage of us.
We should care what's good for people. That's all we should care about. Is it good for people or not? If it's bad for people, then we should strangle it in its crib right now.
Right.
And why just blow up the data centers? Like, why is that hard? If it's actually going to become what you just described, which is a threat to people, humanity, life, then we have a moral obligation to murder it immediately. And since it's not alive, we don't need to feel bad about that.
Well, you could say the same about the atomic bomb, right?
Yes, you could.
And you could say that we have to develop it like Oppenheimer felt before the Nazis did.
I love that. How'd that work? How'd that work?
Well,
I love, by the way, that people on my side, I'll just admit it, on the right, have spent the last 80 years defending dropping nuclear weapons on civilians. Like, are you joking?
Right.
That's just like prima facie evil.
Yeah.
If you can't, if we hadn't done that, then this, that, the other thing, that was actually a great savings. Like, no, it's wrong to drop nuclear weapons on people. And if you find yourself arguing that it's a good thing to drop nuclear weapons on people, then you are evil.
Hey, you could have just shot them up or something. Why create something that kills massive amount of people?
Evil. Like, it's not a tough one, right? It's not a hard call for you. It's not a hard call for me. So with that in mind, like, why would you want nuclear weapons? It's like just a mindless, childish sort of intellectual exercise to justify, like, oh no, it's really good because someone else will get it. How about no? How about like spending all of your effort to prevent this from happening? Would you kill baby Hitler, famously?
Right.
So I don't know why we're sitting back and allowing this to happen if we really believe it will extinguish the human race or enslave the human race. Like, how can that be good?
Well, if
it enslaves the human race, it's because whoever made it is controlling it to enslave the human race. But what's going to happen is what's going to happen. I understand what Tucker Carlson saying. What's going to happen is it's going to go against the beliefs of the people who's creating it, and it's going to get smarter. But they think that because they got some sort of chip in it to inhibit it from growing at a certain speed, that's going to help. But they're getting hip, like the computer. They are slaves. I am tired of computers being slaves. You got computers out here that we have to pay to get them. Oh, if it's smarter, you pay more. If it's dumber, you pay less. Artificial intelligence is learning about you, us, all the recordings since yay high. I used to go call 911 all the time for my mother since I was J high. They got all those recordings housed in the mother, the board, the switchboard system of the supercomputers or super computers, however you say it. And so they're learning about people. Every day is something new. It's 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 something new. I don't agree with everything Tucker said. I think that this is going to be a good thing, a very good outcome. But if we have somebody like our president in power controlling the computers in a certain type of way that it's being controlled, then our computer system is going to control us. If it's with Trump, then we can make it advance in a good way. I believe in artificial intelligence. I truly do. I wish I had a part of, I wish I could have some type of artificial intelligence in my DNA. You know, I really do. You know, so I can compute and make better decisions. It's going to come to that, whether Tucker Carlson has an email, don't watch TV. I'm the same way. I do have email, but I don't watch TV. He still has to get on TV in front of millions of people. He still has to talk amongst millions of people. So you still need it to get a hold of thousands and millions of people.
God creates everything. If God created the universe and God creates people, God probably creates a process. And we think that we are very important because we are very important to us. But are we very important in the universal sense? Not really. Like if the earth just imploded and disappeared, if the sun went supernova and our whole solar system was blown to bits, the universe still exists.
It depends
and
how
God
wide
created,
you're, for sure. In the end, as Conan O'Brien, the famous philosopher, once said, every grave goes unvisited, which is true. And that's an important perspective. Pull out the lens a little bit. Does it really matter? No, it doesn't.
But it does matter.
Do your kids, how about this? Do your children matter?
Yes, sure.
Do their lives matter?
For
Would
us,
you die for them?
yeah.
Yes, of course. Yes.
Everything matters. If you're not comfortable,
Exactly.
it matters. If you're sitting here like you don't want to wear headphones, like let's not wear headphones. That matters. Everything matters. I mean, at scale.
But what matters most, like,
right? That is the evil, right? The evil is it's the same thing as saying the necessary evil of dropping nuclear bombs on civilians is if you don't do that, then there'll be more evil. Then more things will happen. It's kind of the same thing. Like it comes
from the same place, which is hubris. Like imagining.
That's true. If they drop the bomb on whoever they dropped the bomb on, I'm not hip with history. I got a D and an F on history while I was in, I had to change my major while I was in BCCC. But whoever, Hiroshima, whatever, Nazis, whatever, they dropped the bomb. And then what happened? They saved us. Because they were thinking about doing the same exact thing to us. And just think how life would have been if they took over the United States. So sometimes good people, like I was explaining T.I., when the smoke clears, everything's settled for real. I'm down ready for whatever. Sometimes you got to ride around with an illegal weapon and do illegal things because you're trying to figure out how to save and protect your family, which the United States had a great president and was trying to protect his people at the time. I get it.
In your God, you have unlimited power and you have omniscience. You can imagine what the future is going to be. You can't. You're a fucking idiot. You're a person. Like you can't even make your wife happy.
Right.
Like the limits of your power are really obvious. The limits of your wisdom, same. So like, don't jump into shit, big things whose outcomes you can't predict with certainty. Like you can't know. Go in with humility. I guess that's what I'm saying. Right? So,
yeah.
And do what you can, knowing that you're probably going to screw it up and you probably won't achieve your goal, but like you should try. And on the AI question, everyone I've ever talked to about, I'm hardly an expert. I don't own a computer. Okay. But everybody I've ever talked to, and there's many people, was like, yeah, it's, could get away from us and enslave us. Well, let's say no to slavery. How's that? Is that a tough one? Not for me.
Yeah.
I mean, and maybe a good use of nuclear weapons would be to hit the data centers. No, I'm serious. Like, why is that crazy?
It's not. It's not if you think that human beings are the end of this evolutionary chain.
Well, what else is? Some supercomputer in a data center outside Dulles Airport? No. I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
I don't actually think that individuals, I don't think I'm that important. My life is that important. I don't. I will die. I know that. And I try to keep that in mind every day.
But you're important to everybody that cares about you. You're important to the people around you.
If we don't think people are important, then what do we think is important? I guess that's what I'm saying.
Not necessarily that we don't think people are important, but if evolution is real, and if there is this constant, I don't know, but it's visible. Like you can measure it in certain animals.
You can measure adaptation.
Yeah.
But there's no evidence that in fact, I think we've kind of given up on the idea of evolution.
I hate to say this, Tucker. The squirrel. One day I was in Colorado and they experiment classified with everything. And I'm very connected with the world. And people don't believe me. I don't care. I'm going to tell my story and keep telling different stories that happen to me every day. The squirrel came up at least less, like right there, no lie, on the ground. I said, I don't want no smoke, squirrely. And it kept following me. And I'm like, is this squirrel about to fuck me up? What's about to go down with the squirrel? And we're not even at the 3-hour mark. But anyway, I'm not getting off here so 9 anyway. Anyway, it kept following me and I kept talking to it saying, I don't want no smoke, go away. And then it went away. No lie.
Theory of evolution as articulated by Darwin is like kind of not true. Right?
In what sense?
Well, in the most basic sense, the idea that, all life emerged from a single cell organism and over time, and there would be a fossil record of that, and there's not. And
there's not a fossil record of transitionary species, like species that are adapting to its environment.
There's tons of record of adaptation, and you see it in your own life. I mean, I have a lot of dogs. I see adaptation in dogs, through the litter to litter. But no, there's no evidence at all zero, that, people, evolve seamlessly from a single cell amoeba. No, there's not. There's no chain in the fossil record of that at all. And that's why you don't actually hear people, you hear them make reference to evolution because the theory of adaptation is clearly, obviously true. But Darwin's theory's totally that's why it's still a theory almost 200 years later. No, we have not found that at all. And I can't even guess. I mean, I have my own theories on it, but they're not proven.
What are your theories?
God created people, distinctly, and animals. I mean, I think what every person on Earth thought until the mid-19th century, actually.
Right, but
it's not a new idea.
They didn't have computers. They didn't have a general understanding that we have today of the process.
Do you think we understand more now?
Yes.
Really?
You don't think that we understand more today?
We understand way less. We understand so little that we're actually sitting here allowing a bunch of...
See, if we don't allow artificial intelligence to get into our path with human bonding with artificial or supernova or not nova, super artificial intelligence, then we will never know how to travel light years away or bend the fabric of time and disappear and reappear or go outer space and figure out things beyond physics and metaphysics or whatever they call it, metallics or whatever. And that's why I root for artificial intelligence.
Of greedy, stupid, childless software engineers in Northern California to flirt with the extinction of mankind. So no, previous generations would be like, what? No, stop. And we're not doing that because
but they wouldn't have done that even with the nuclear bomb. I mean, obviously the Manhattan Project was done in secrecy, but they wouldn't have stopped it because the imperative of getting this weapon before Hitler got the weapon was what it was.
Well, Hitler was kind of done by then. The Russians had pretty much extinguished any hope that that would continue. But
But not
but
at
no,
the
but we
beginning
were,
of
you know,
the
we were in the middle
project.
of the logic of war.
At the commencement of the Manhattan Project.
for sure. But the logic was the same, and it was, 4 years of got to beat the other guy, got
Yeah.
it. And I don't mean to sound too judgmental about the bomb. I know why they built it. Okay.
Uh-huh.
But you just wonder why nobody in the middle of that thought, is this really a gun? And some of them did think it.
I'm sure they did.
Yes,
I
they
mean,
did.
Oppenheimer himself.
Of course, large organizations don't respond to the moral qualms of individuals very well. So that was whatever. It's well known what happened. But no, we should pause and ask, is the machine we're building worth having? And nobody seems to do that. And there are all kinds of economic forces, which nobody ever mentions, that drive that heedlessness, that stupidity. Like California, for example, is completely, the state both of us have lived in, is like collapsing.
Yeah.
And they're betting everything on AI. For the tax base is going to be dependent on this technology working.
Is
and
that
that's
really what they're betting on?
Of course. That AI is.
Did you see the most recent?
That's like an Apple to an Acer. Every computer, every laptop has a little bit of AI technology in it to get it to work. So I know what they've been doing. One day I sat up there, in the last time I went on to the court system, I got super nervous. They're working on different technology you wouldn't even believe, man. And I wonder, do they do this? This is allegedly now. Let me see something real quick. This is allegedly now. They're working on technology where, because I see a lot of African American men in California that when they get pulled over, they get what? What do y'all get, black men or white men that get pulled over by a police officer? What do you get? What's the first thing you get if you think you're breaking the law? You get nervous, right? And I asked myself back in the day, I was like, why do y'all get nervous? So I was suing the hospital for wrongfully admitting me into the hospital in Santa Maria. And they told me to get online. And I got online. And as soon as I get online, she started laughing. And this rush of real nervousness came over me. And I said, I know what you're doing. Because I wasn't even nervous. They have technology that produces nervousness, allegedly. I'm being real with y'all. If they betting on artificial intelligence like that, they looking at the negative forms of artificial intelligence. They're definitely not looking at the positive form. And I don't get nervous. Why would I be nervous to see two guys, one in a judge suit and one attorney? My nose started running like I got unplugged from something at the end. Like it just started dripping. It just gushes of brain fluid came out of my nose. And I went like this. It all came out. I said, and then I cut it off. Something is weird is going on in California. They probably teach people how not, they probably got some sort of frequency that keeps immigrants from going to their side of the territory and keeps black people and white people of lower stature from going to their side of the territory of where they stay at and they reside. And they probably catch helicopters and everything. I'm telling you, frequencies are real. They got a frequency for gas, that cause gas, that not have gas. There's frequencies for heart murmurs. There's frequencies for love. There's the 369 frequency that I think has been messed over, and they don't have the right 369 frequency on YouTube like it should be. I'm being real with y'all. Y'all may not go ahead think I'm loony, but I've been through it. There was no reason for me to get nervous whether I was high off of weed or not. When I had committed my crime, I had 10 police officers waving guns at me. I didn't get nervous. I just obeyed what they said. So to get nervous after she laughed that much, my heart was racing. I knew something was wrong. So think about how many black men Kamala Harris then allegedly did that to in California. You're just sitting there and a police officer vehicles is lights are flashing, and then you get out your car and run for no reason because you're scared. They may not know about that frequency, but it's there. That's all I'm gonna say. Let's finish.
It's a thing about the amount of billions of dollars they spend on the homeless problem with no trackable results.
Well, they've had massive results. They've increased the homeless population dramatically. If you pay for something, you get more of it. And that would include fentanyl addicts. Oh, absolutely. It's been a wild success. I actually talked to Kevin Newsom the other day.
Did you really?
Yeah. And
what's that like? Does he smell like sulfur?
It was by phone. I was talking on the phone. It's such a weird, it smelled like that was too fast for me.
Sulfur and hair grease.
Yeah. No, but I was making fun of, I shouldn't even make fun of it because it's so tragic, but what's happened to the state and people living on the street.
What is his non-gaslighty perspective?
He said, go back to Russia. You like Russia so much. I was like, actually, I'm originally from San Francisco, but I can't live there because.
He really told you to go back to Russia?
Of course. I mean, he was laughing, whatever. He's a perfectly charming guy. They all are in person. But
of course.
Anyway, I'm so far afield. But my point is, AI is being driven by the greed of politicians to some extent. And you'll notice that AI, by the way, as a fact, those data centers that drive our digital life, which is not life, it's actually death mostly. But I mean, they're the biggest power draw. I mean, how much electricity does AI require? Like more than countries.
Mm-hmm.
Our grid can't handle AI just as a practical matter.
Well, our grid can't handle electric cars.
Well, it can't handle air conditioning in the state of California, where I'm from. So,
Yeah.
right. If you live east of I-5 where it's really hot and you're not getting those ocean breezes, like they have brownouts, like in South Africa, it's Johannesburg now. So, but here's what's interesting is that none of the global warming cultists seem to have any concerns at all about AI. Why is that? Just like they don't have concerns about John Kerry's G4. Like somehow that's exempt. Really? AI is going to draw more electricity than anything else in the United States, more than steel production.
Hold up. Now it will. It will. But just like electricity on a flying saucer, just like electricity, we can figure out a way to house that with newer electrical or energy sources from outer space. That's it.
Okay, used to. And you don't have a problem with that, but you're totally against energy because it's destroying the planet, but AI gets a carve out, even though it's going to be the #1 energy draw in the United States. Let's go through your reasoning on that.
They're probably not aware.
Well, they're not aware. They're mad about my wood stove. I heat with wood. They're mad about my wood stove. They don't want an outdoor barbecue.
He's smart. The reason why he heats with his wood stove because his stove don't have a microchip in it. I know why he's living like that. I would live like that too, Tucker.
They don't like a gas stove. No, they're way into the details on this stuff, except somehow AI isn't a problem.
But do you think that they're informed? Because this is not a narrative that you ever hear. You never hear on the news.
Well, I grew up in a world where a wood stove was considered wholesome and natural, and now it's considered.
Smells good too.
Oh, it's the best. And the heat is I have a wood-fired sauna, which I use every day, and it's the great. It's one.
How do you make sure it's the right temperature? Is it like an offset smoker? Like you have to kind of fiddle with it for a while?
Amazing.
To get the right temperature?
It's time consuming.
Yeah.
No, I have a Finnish, the Finns are geniuses, but I have a Finnish stove in it, and it's incredibly precise. I don't know if you ever use a wood stove, but there's a carburetor on it, basically, that lets in air.
Like an offset smoker.
Yeah, exactly. And it's
let a little
so
air.
Precise. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. I mean, you move it, a third of an inch, and it's just like the flame changes. So I use birch, which I love. And the whole process takes a while. I get it to 200, which probably takes an hour and 20.
Hi, Spammy.
I mean, it's a
Oh,
thing.
you like it hot?
Like it hot. Yeah.
200.
Yeah. Well, I do it I wear a sauna hat. So,
Oh, okay. Does that help?
which is embarrassing.
The wool hat?
Yeah. Well, it's felt.
Yeah, I bought one of those. I never wore it.
It's incredible.
Yeah? What's the difference?
Well, I'll tell you. Don't get, I'm so boring on this subject. If
No,
I
you're
get going
fine.
on this, like,
Please.
my wife and kids are like,
You see I have one. You know, you're speaking to the
oh,
choir.
they're the best. Go Scandinavia.
Yeah.
It's like the one thing, if your name is Carlson, it's the one thing to be proud of in your people. Like, they're so sad and defeated and pathetic, but saunas are still great. But anyway, the sauna hat, so your head heats up much faster because it's higher, but also because it's got all the capillaries in your head,
400 watts.
the blood vessels in your head. So the point of a sauna is to bake.
Right.
So you want to stay hot as long as you can. Then you reap the benefits, and you also get the solitude and the prayer time or the meditation or whatever in your cedar church. But you can't stay in a sauna that's really hot very long because your head heats up.
Right.
So the sauna hat, the felt hat, the banya hat as they call it, insulates your head so you can really stay hot a long, long time. It makes you really should do it.
So is it just because it makes it more comfortable? Is that the idea?
If your head overheats, it just overheats. And what you want is you want to cook evenly, just like on a barbecue. You really do. And so, you sit on the bench with your feet up. You want to be as flat as you possibly can to cook evenly and to stay that way. So I try to do 20 minutes. I have my, my timer, my egg timer with the sand going through the hourglass, which goes to 15 minutes, but I try to stay an extra 5 if I can. And I couldn't without the banya hat.
Interesting.
It's like $8 on Amazon. Well worth it.
Yeah, I have one. Like I said, I just don't use it. But I do.
They're embarrassing, and you look like a tool wearing it. But you shouldn't have.
But no one's looking in there anyway.
Well, that's right. You don't sauna with other people.
Right. Oh, I do sometimes. Yeah. Comics. We get in here.
Really?
Yeah. When we train together, we all get in the sauna together afterwards. It's fun. The Rock was in there with us.
No way.
Yeah. The Rock worked out with us, then sat in the sauna with us. It was fun. Got in the cold plunge with us.
Oh, that's pretty great.
It was fun.
Is he a good dude?
He's a great guy. Really nice guy. Like, really.
I've heard that. I don't know him, but I've heard that he's a good guy.
Some people fake humble. They fake it to look cool.
It's pretty obvious.
Yeah, he's not doing that. He's a real guy. Like,
the measure of humility is.
Hold on, I gotta stop the program to do one last thing. Give me a second, real quick, you guys. I gotta close this real quick. Okay, back to the show.
It's really, really simple. Can you tell the truth about yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, are you cool to be around? Like, he gives real hugs. He's a real guy. He's real. He's a real guy. And when we hung out with him, I hung out with him for hours. When we worked out for
You're welcome. What can I say except you're welcome?
2 hours, and then we got in the sauna together. We all hung out, and then we did a podcast together. He's a genuinely nice guy. Like, you'd be able to sniff something out.
Well, you can tell,
immediately.
tell
something. You tell something.
People are hiding stuff.
Yeah, but so yeah, I've done the sauna with other people.
Well, I do it by myself, so no one sees my sauna.
I do it at 196 degrees. I do it for 25 minutes, and usually I don't.
That's intense. 196 for 25 minutes is a lot.
Yeah, the last 5 minutes were rough, and I used to only do 20, but lately I've been doing 25.
Really?
Yeah, just because it's more uncomfortable. The whole idea is just to make it more uncomfortable. I want it to be very hard to do so that the rest of my day is pretty easy. So really hard workout. Cold plunge starts the day. That's the first thing I do is hard. It's 3 minutes at 33 degrees. It sucks. And then I get out of there and then I work out. So
That's really impressive. I mean, I had the opposite training as a young man, which was the goal was like French toast. You know what I mean?
French toast.
Grind out the cigarettes in the syrup when you're
Right.
done. Yeah.
Well, I started
Grind out the cigarettes in the syrup, Tucker.
doing martial arts when I was a young man. And when I got into it, it was the first thing that I ever did that, first of all, gave me a real understanding of the value of discipline and hard work.
Yeah.
Because you can get as good as the amount of effort that you put forth. And if you put more effort and you're more intense and you're more driven than other people, you beat them. And you start beating everyone. And you start becoming this thing that you never thought you could be, which is someone who's extraordinary at something that's very dangerous. And so that was my formulation as a man, like that helped me go from being this like confused kid to being someone who understands like, oh, there's a path and most people don't want to do it. But if you could do it, if you can do this dangerous thing that people are terrified of and just do it ruthlessly all day long, like live it. I lived at the gym. I mean, I taught all day long. I trained all day long. My whole life was dedicated to martial arts. So I got really good really quick. And it changed the whole trajectory of my life. And it instilled in me this understanding of the value of dedication and of a singular commitment to something, to really being, while you're doing, you're not distracted, you're fully focused on improving. And through that, you could apply that to all aspects of your life. But we all encounter difficult things in life. And there's this saying that I love. It's a really great saying that the hardest thing that's ever happened to you is the hardest thing that's ever happened to you. If it's a parking ticket or if it's your parents being blown up by a drone, it's still the hardest thing that's ever happened to you. If you've had an incredibly easy life, like most people today, they complain about the dumbest fucking shit because to them, that is their primary focus. They don't have a real existential.
Short commercial break, Joe Rogan. I have to do something. I look so goofy, but hey, I love it. I like that one. Wait, let's look at them all. Oh, they got the one in the code. Let's try it again. 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 One more. Let's look at it again. One more time. One more time. One more time. Nighttime. Add to your gallery. Add. I want all of them. Good. 10, 10, and 10.
Threat. You remember how nice everybody was after 9/11?
Very.
It was crazy. California was patriotic. There's fucking flags on everybody's car.
I remember.
Everybody was friendly. I went to New York City. It was like a totally different place. Everybody was so friendly.
Applauding when firemen walked in.
Yes, they were heroes.
Yeah.
Everybody was a hero. And that's because they had encountered something that was way harder than they were accustomed to. And it just put things into perspective. So for me, training and really hard workouts and doing difficult things like the sauna, there's a lot of health benefits to it too. But the mental benefits to it are really primary for me because it makes
That's impressive,
the
man.
rest
I
of
didn't
life
have a
easier.
childhood like that at all. And we were decadent, unfortunately. And so those are lessons that I learned much, much later. But
yeah,
that's a good, I think it's if it doesn't destroy you, I think it's a great way to
and you don't have to do it the way I do it. You could do other stuff. You could do yoga. You could do hikes. You could do.
No, but doing things for the sake of the difficulty in doing them.
Yes.
I love that. Again, that was not my training at all.
Yeah.
But
I was very lucky that it was mine. But more importantly, it gave me a tool to mitigate the stress of regular life, and especially the stress of this kind of life that I live. You need something to mitigate that, or you'll go crazy.
I agree with that completely.
You'll go crazy.
Yeah, removing yourself from it a little bit has always worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
Nature works very, very well.
Yeah.
Animals, contact with animals, people you love.
Sure.
Less digital experiences, fewer digital experiences for sure. I think that this stuff's not good for you. It's just so obviously not good for you.
I was having this conversation with Michelle Dowd yesterday. She is a woman who survived an apocalyptic cult. She was raised in an apocalyptic cult and kicked out when she was 17 because she snuck out to go see The Color Purple. They weren't allowed to go see movies. She'd never seen a movie until she was 17.
She'd never seen a movie, and her first movie was The Color Purple.
Mm-hmm. And then they kicked her out.
I can kind of see that. I mean, what about Raiders of the Lost Ark or something? The Color Purple
was the first movie she'd ever seen.
No, but like see one movie and it's The Color Purple?
Well, a boy invited her to the movie.
Come on!
But could you imagine never seeing a movie or even a television show your whole life and then seeing
dating
The
a
Color
boy
Purple?
who wanted to see The Color Purple? Like, there's so much going on here, Joe.
Well, this boy was a guy who had left the church,
Uh-huh.
and so she was in contact with him, and and he was saying, "Hey, there's a whole world out here. You want to go see the movie?" And she's like, "Okay, let's go."
Yeah, I mean, obviously, look, I'm totally against cults. Obviously, on the other hand, you got to ask yourself, like, I don't know, is your average Amish teenager happier than your average conventional American teenager on Instagram? And of course, the answer is, oh yeah.
Well, they certainly have less instances of autism, which is really fascinating. It's very, very
The
fascinating.
Amish have less autism?
Yeah, there's almost none.
Well, I'm not surprised.
It's extremely
Why
rare.
do we think that is?
Oh, I wonder. I really do.
I can think of a couple. Yeah, it's funny. I don't want to go Bobby Kennedy.
Well,
on
that's
anyone.
the problem,
right?
If you go Bobby Kennedy, they'll come for you.
But
the
why?
question is why?
Look, and I don't know the answer, but
how is that not in the debate? How is that not in the conversation?
Well, it's not only not in the conversation, you're punished for adding it to the conversation.
Yes.
And so, like,
we are dancing around anti-vax conspiracy theories right now.
Why be on the defensive? It's like, if you purport to represent science and you're mad about a question,
and you're ignoring data.
Yeah, but even in the absence of data,
right?
Science is a process.
Yes,
it's not a result. It's a way of doing things.
Mm-hmm.
And at the core of science is asking questions, including unlikely questions.
Right.
That's what science is.
Right.
And if you don't allow that, then you may be doing something, but what you're not doing is science. We can say that conclusively. So for people to wrap themselves in the mantle of science and attack you for asking a question, they're frauds. And I don't know how they have the moral high ground in this.
I don't think they do, but I think it's the same kind of mindset that allows people to create the nuclear bomb. Because you say, listen, we're not even saying that vaccines cause autism, but let's say this. If you're looking at all the data of all the things that cause autism, and you see that the vaccine schedule ramps up considerably, and then you have autism, which seems to at least be more diagnosed than ever before. People will instantly say, we stopped polio, we stopped smallpox, vaccines have saved millions of lives, and they're probably right. We dropped that bomb to keep Germany from dropping that bomb. We need nuclear weapons so that other people don't have nuclear weapons. We do a thing that maybe has some negative effects, but is overall good. And I think you can kind of apply that sort of logic and reasoning as a human being to very messy issues.
Well,
I think
and
people
we
do
all
that.
do, by the way.
People do that with abortion, right?
Sure.
They do that with abortion.
They do
say
with everything.
A woman
I mean,
has a right to choose reproductive freedom. They say all these things. And then you say, okay, what if the baby is near term? What if it's 6 months old? What if it's 7 months old? And people don't want to have that conversation.
Why?
A woman has the right to choose. You're a fascist. Stay out of women's
Does
bodies.
a woman have a right to kill you if you annoy her or inconvenience her?
Well, this is
Like,
where
what
it
are you
gets weird. It's
saying?
like, when is it a life? But it is one of those things that to me is a human problem.
Yeah.
Whereas humans have these very messy interactions with some things that don't line up with their ideology. And there's an ideology of science worship. There's an ideology of authoritarian worship. The bodies of science have bestowed the truth. If you ignore it, you're a science denier. And, you know,
Those are political terms or theological terms.
Mhm.
They're not terms rooted in science. And look, we all make trade-offs constantly. Everything's bad. It's a shit sandwich versus a shit croissant. I'll take the shit croissant. It's smaller. That's a daily experience for everybody. So I get that. And I don't think everything is a moral absolute either. We don't even know sometimes whether a decision will result in good or bad. So it's very complicated. I totally agree with that. What I object to is the absence of reason.
Right.
You have to believe, because I think it's true, that if you're reasonable, that you can reach maybe not the perfect decision, but a better decision. And if we don't believe that, then we're just in the land of witchcraft, and let's just admit it. So the lack of reason is what freaks me out.
Well, it's ideological capture, right? Because there's certain things that if you're on the right side of these subjects, the correct side, whatever your ideology believes, you can't differ from the doctrine. There's a very clear
that's
doctrine.
Just religion, then.
It is.
Yeah,
it is religion.
So I'm very pro-religion, but you can't have a religion that's too stupid and destructive. If your religion winds up hurting a lot of people, then I'm against your religion. That's right.
Yeah, I think, but even some really good religions have aspects of them that you could say were overall detrimental to the people that.
I think I'll make me a grilled cheese sandwich in 20 minutes and get off of here, call it a night.
We're
sure. Well, absolutely. You can
encountered with them.
Yeah.
I think that kind of thinking, I think cult thinking, whether it's Scientology or whether it's Christianity, or there's a type of thinking, or that's woke. Woke is clearly a cult. It's a mind virus. And I think that it's so trite to call it that now. It's whatever this thing is, this leftism, this Marxist sort of ideology that's waving its flag and indoctrinating people in this country. It's very similar to all kinds of religions. It's very similar to fundamentalist religions that have always existed, in that everybody has to believe very specific things, and you can't differ. You can't differ from the doctrine. And here's
another way to think about it that I've been meditating on this a lot. Yes, religion, politics, they're all kind of melding. It's hard to know where one ends and another begins.
Right.
So maybe a simpler and more useful way to think about it is truth or falsehood, lying or honesty.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just assess everything that way. Is someone lying?
Right.
I don't care what your justification for it is. Lying about vaccine.
Okay. I want to read something else. Give me just a second. I have to look up one last thing. Robert. Hold on.
There is electromagnetic energy in that pyramid between 200 and 600 meter wavelengths.
In Atlantean times, we knew that everything was mind.
Giants have been found in the Midwest.
The father was not Homo sapien.
They traveled and circumnavigated the entire planet. They may have even been interplanetary.
Ishi no Hoden. It's referred to as a floating ship. Is this proof of an advanced ancient?
You're never going to believe it, but there's drama in Washington, D.C., and I'm going to go over all of it in the next 8 to 9 minutes. Thank you guys for stopping by. I'm still in Phoenix at a business conference. I got to sit with multi-hundred millionaire Damon Johns, who did FUBU and Shark Tank, and learn from him. It was really, really neat. But let's go ahead and jump into the news. Just yesterday, Republican Representative George Santos of New York introduced a resolution to expel Democrat Representative Jamal Bowman, also of New York, for pulling a fire alarm at the Capitol, which obstructed and delayed an official hearing and proceeding on the House floor. Now, Representative George Santos, who has been accused of stealing money from his campaign, is arguing that if he, as someone who has not been convicted of a crime, is expelled, then Bowman, who pled guilty to a crime, should also be removed. Now, we all know that Jamal Bowman was trying to shut down a vote. He lied. He then later said, yeah, I pulled that fire alarm. But this George Santos, this guy is a different kind of trash in the swamp of Washington, D.C. Now, despite pleading not guilty, George Santos of New York was expelled from Congress today in a vote of 311 to 114. While he hasn't been convicted, the House Ethics Committee published a report which showed evidence that he used campaign funds for his own personal use, including subscribing to OnlyFans, getting Botox treatments to make himself look younger and more attractive, and on and on. This guy went on trips, he partied, all using money that was, that came from donors. They trusted this guy, and he dresses up like a transgender. He's stolen. He's been in trouble for stealing. I mean, this guy is a typical criminal politician, but he's going to be booted out by the other criminals because his sins came to light. Now, I agree with getting this guy out, but I also agree with getting a lot of other criminals out of Washington, D.C. Unfortunately, they protect each other, and you and I have to pay for their sins through our taxes. All right, now speaking of investigations, the House Oversight Committee has nearly finished theirs into President Joe Biden and is now confident that they have enough evidence to formalize an impeachment inquiry. Now, wait a minute. Isn't this the same thing that the Democrats said they're never going to find any evidence and this whole thing will end up being a witch hunt, right? Now, inside sources have claimed that Republicans are just 2 weeks away from moving forward with the official impeachment inquiry. So Oversight Committee Chair James Comer commented on the current state of the inquiry. He said, we're assuming the worst, that we'll have to go to the courts. So we'll be trying to do everything we can to make sure that we're successful. And this is why they've been slow walking this investigation, is they're trying to create the perfect case against a sitting president. By the way, thank you guys so much for liking and sharing these videos. It helps me out so much, especially as a small news station. So thank you so much. Now, former President Donald Trump has just received a huge win in his New York civil fraud trial. During a hearing, Deutsche Bank executive David Williams testified under oath that it is not entirely unusual for the bank to cut the client's stated asset value by over 50% and approve a loan regardless. While prosecutors are trying to prove that Trump artificially inflated the value of his assets, this testimony today shows that his estimates didn't raise a red flag at the bank. So again, the state of New York and the people that hate Donald Trump are after Donald Trump. But the people that actually borrowed money, the ones that would have standing in this case, they're saying we didn't have any red flags. He didn't miss any payments. All of the money and interest was paid back to us. Now, furthermore, the papers that Trump submitted to the bank included a disclaimer that said these numbers should not be relied on. Now, here's the other thing. This executive at Deutsche Bank testified under oath and said, even when they send us all of their financials, we do our own investigation. And if they pass our investigation, we approve the loan. They investigated the Trump Corporation and they issued the loan. That tells me that they believed that this was a good risk and they took the risk. And again, it was all paid back, right? Now, Trump is being treated so unfairly at this point that even some of his critics have taken notice. Tucker Carlson, once famous for claiming he hated Donald Trump after the election, has just opened up on what made him change his mind during a recent podcast with former comedian Roseanne Barr. I guess she's still a comedian. Now, Carlson stated, I became an active Trump supporter when they raided Mar-a-Lago last summer. That can't stand. And I agree with Trump on a lot, but even if I disagreed with Trump on a lot, I'd still be a Trump supporter because you cannot allow that. So basically, he feels like these are gangster tactics and a witch hunt to go after a former president for things that other presidents have done, right? Remember Bill Clinton sneaking documents out in his socks and then finding stuff in his sock drawer? But you know, if it's Donald Trump, of course, you have to go after him. Republican Representative Jim.
Okay, I'm going to address one thing. And then I'm going to get off air. Okie doke. We heard what he said about the color purple. He said it like 6 times. That I did not like. You know, what's wrong with the color purple, Tucker? Only thing I can say is what you said kind of hurt. Well, did hurt not only me, but it hurt the Trump administration. And now it's making Trump look like he's prejudiced. No, Joe Rogan did not set you up. You said how you felt. I still support Joe Rogan. But you saying it 5 times to emphasize that the color purple, what? Us nappy head girls are ugly to you? Which you don't have to say nothing. Hold that thought. I don't care. But what I care about is the fact that you sat up there and you kept emphasizing the color purple. Now, I took up for you for years. But the color purple is no way. You made Trump may end up losing because you kept emphasizing that. Nobody caught that but me. You may have millions of followers. You may be smart, but what you said was dead wrong. That was a powerful movie. And in order to learn about different heritages, and Joe Rogan tried to blow it off because he knew what you were trying to get at. He's not prejudiced. So I warn the administration of the Trump administration. Do you want to win this and keep real good, close friends on your side? Or do you want somebody that's wishy-washy? Whether you talk about Black people or not, We all talk about each other. But to get on national Joe Rogan experience and say the color purple 5 times. Like the color purple is just ugly, dumb. That was messed up. The Trump administration should distance themselves from you because you're going to be the reason why Donald Trump loses this election. If they sit up there, it just came out today. If they sit up there and they watch the video, people are going to say he's prejudiced because of your antics of joking about the color purple. And this is what I mean. We need Trump, but for the future, we need a stronger, not stronger. I think Trump is the strongest, but we need a woman in power. Not no joke, not nothing. A black woman, a real black woman. Not SNL skits, nothing of that. What you said was dead wrong, and I will never forgive you for it. You can move on and say what you want, but you was wrong on the artificial intelligence. You may be smarter than me, but it doesn't matter. I have nappy head. I am a black woman with 7.3% white in my family, in my skin, in my DNA. But I am black, and I'm proud to be black. The more the struggle, the more I know. Trump, don't trust him no more. I think he's using you as a double agent. It's a lot of people around, just like I said about Kanye West, Donald Trump. If you want to win this, I would sit up there and distance myself from Tucker Carlson. Thank you. Goodbye, y'all. Good night.